and
Hello.
and we're here.
Oh, it's not dark anymore.
Hello.
Yes. Let there be light.
Whee!
Good evening,
Let
everyone.
there be
Welcome.
lighted. Hello.
Welcome, everyone. Good to see everyone out there. Good to see you two lovely people. Welcome, everyone. And hello, this is The Social Pillar. We're back again, an ongoing conversation about the value of role-playing games and their crafts, cultures, and communities throughout the world. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we're coming to you from. Here in Australia, I am currently on Darug land, and we pay our respects to the elders past and present and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders who are watching or listening. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land and sovereignty was never ceded. My name is Ian
100%.
Zammit. It's good to see you guys. I'm Ian Zammit. I'm from Roleplay Experience, and we three Forever Games Masters welcome you to our conversation. I hand over to our team over here. Over to you, Thea.
Hello.
Hello.
I mean, I could introduce myself, but after such a spectacular job done by you, I'm not sure if I can live up to the standards. I am
think you'll do
Thea.
okay.
Oh, gosh, I love this crew. So good. Oh my God, you guys are the best. So I am apparently this evening Uwu DM, but I am OMGM. It is a pleasure to be here. I do some gaming stuff upon occasion, some streaming stuff upon occasion, and I am just blessed to be here with you both tonight. Don't ask me where this persona has come from. I'd mean that, but maybe not like this. We have a third person here who hopefully has not been inhabited by the strange spirits. Jared, wait, what side?
Hello.
Jared.
This side. Every side. Good evening, everyone. I am Jared, also known as the GM Chef. Joining me with these wonderful... I'm joining these wonderful people.
We're doing good. We're off to an excellent start.
We're doing the stream thing. We're here. Some people are tuning in live, but you might be listening to this after the fact. So please check out our socials, do all that sort of stuff. But if you want to tune in live and have a chat to us while we do our chat, our show, our broadcast, if you will, please come check out our feed and everything. Check out the socials and make sure that we are continuing the ongoing conversation that we have pitched forth for everyone to enjoy.
Indeed.
But we are doing what I believe is a big topic tonight. It will not be the end of this conversation. We are but testing the waters.
Dipping in a small
Completely
toe.
agree. Yeah, it's a good point. This is a conversation that's been growing over the years, and we've all talked about this on and off many times and actually skirted around the idea, do we talk about this now? What's appropriate? When's appropriate? It's come about now. We wanted to look at what is the evolution of what's called professional games mastery. We want to peel back the curtain tonight. We want to talk to our chat group. We welcome you out there, everyone who's there. Talva, if you are there. Aegir, Gorman, Gunda, I am destroying your name, and I'm so sorry, but it's so glad to have you on there. And everyone else who's on here, we really want to talk to you. Like as you said, dip our toes into this discussion rather than take a deep dive, because there's a lot to this. So to start, what is this? It's not an advocation that all GMs should be becoming professional GMs or paid GMs. This is a discussion simply to talk about, what is it? What does it mean? Why do people do it from our experience? And what's our experience of this, and where do we think it's going?
And I think the important part of that is what does it mean from our perspective? What do we think it means? Because like most things in this ever-evolving community game, terms have different meanings to different people, and people value different things about this game. So I think that it's really important we acknowledge these are our perspectives. And it's based on our experience. We do value other people's perspectives. I mean, me personally, if I don't like it, I won't listen to you, because I don't like to expand my worldview beyond a very narrow bucket.
Thank you for telling us now, Thea. This is good to know. We can prepare for that.
I am not entirely serious. D and Dog agrees. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. But I think it is. It's a really important conversation. And we're going to be talking about some terms and putting some definitions around the way we use those terms. So we talk about professional GMing. We talk about being paid to GM. is that the same thing? I have a view, and we are going to talk about that. And we'll also talk about some of our experiences, because I think the three of us have very different, not like worlds apart, but different experiences of professional GMing.
Yeah, I think on that, that's a good point. Like, we started this, and actually probably good to come to you as well, Jared, about this in a moment, about why you wanted to do this, and you got Thea and I involved. But the idea of having a conversation here with the three of us is because this is our experiences, and we open the chat to people to hear theirs, and we can only talk from our experience. We can't make sweeping statements about this is what everything is like, and this is what we believe it's like for everybody, because we don't know. It's like we want to talk. We want to investigate, want to see what people feel, what we think, and try to come up with some solutions from our experience. So that's why we want to have more guests on in future as well, so we can broaden that scope. So thank you for being with us to start with as well.
And again, if you disagree with me, clearly you're wrong. But let's move on.
So we know that now. So we're prepared.
Just setting the expectations up front.
Well, in that case, I have nothing to say. No, like you said, Thea, we don't have completely misaligned experiences. We've all had different, I feel like it really just comes down to, we've all had different opportunities through various times and places where we've been offered or recognized an opportunity in order to be compensated through money for our time, effort, and experience and skills. We don't just do this. We don't just go, oh, I can, grubby hands, or, making it just about a side hustle or anything like that. It is, and it was for me for a while. It was something I did on the side, and during COVID and lockdown, when I could not get my regular profession being a chef, I couldn't find a job. I went through 6 different jobs in 2 years. The one thing that remained consistent was the opportunity to host games online for a plethora of clients, as well as run games for fun. And that's what I think we really need to preface right from the get-go. I know this is our general format now, which is obviously just establishing where we're coming from. And we have to say at the core of it all, we love to run games for fun. Of course we run games for fun. I specifically have one of my games that I run for fun. I had somebody ask me, why don't you charge us? And I said, because this game is for me. And when it's for me, I get excited about it. I get enthusiastic, and I get to bring content that I enjoy, and I get to experiment, do fun things. Whereas in the scope of a business transaction, I'm either expected to provide a certain experience, a certain caliber, and be there, be present, be punctual, all the rest of it. Whereas I'm very, very comfortable saying to my social D&D groups, hey guys, not feeling it tonight. You don't really have that, that's the thing, is anyone who's undertaking a business and actually setting up a full business, having invoicing and all of that stuff, managing your tax and everything, you really need to actually have a certain standard and procedures that you operate at, and a certain standard for yourself, and give a certain level of experience. So
let's talk about that, because I think that's tapping right into one of the core things that I think we all feel is really important. What do we mean by professional DM? How are we defining that? Because I think it doesn't just mean being paid.
I think that's a good point. And on that note, that idea of paid, absolutely, we should define, what does it mean? Let's define, first of all, I mean, we talked about this earlier. We'd be keen to hear in the chat what people think about what definitions you think are out there. What does it mean to you to be professional? So the difference between paid versus professional, what the difference from what I see as well is anyone can be paid. It's like just simply saying, I'm going to give you an invoice for the work that I do. That's it. And anyone can do that. That's where the cowboy kind of thing can come in, people who just do whatever they want, and there's no standard that is expected of people to come in. So I think that's a really good, just a definition point right from the top. This is just about being paid. What does it mean to be professional? We've had some really interesting discussions about what it means to us. So what does it mean to you, Thea, to start with?
Yeah, I think so. And I think also it's interesting the three of us have quite different backgrounds and where we're sort of coming from. So to me, being professional really comes down to the standards. The thing that you mentioned, Ian, is about what people can expect for this, for what they are paying for. And having, so to me, it's standards, which also ties in with having a code of ethics along with that. Things that so if I am going to be paid for providing a service, whether that is consulting, whether that is DMing, then I will have a very clear expectation of quality, I think. And I know we kind of all talked a little bit about this, but I will have a discrete experience, which to my customer, as much as I hate using capitalist terms, please do everyone recognize I am a socialist at heart. But these kind of capitalist terms of the customer, they will know what they are getting, and I will deliver that to them. And it will be to a good standard. So if I've said, if I'm contracted to provide a 3-hour game and it will have character interaction, it will be in a dungeon, that is what I will deliver. And I think also as it's kind of a performing art, and I don't want to stray into sort of the arts too much, because I think, Ian, you've got far more experience in that area than I do. But I feel as though it's a performance as well. It's the same as if I'm a keynote speaker somewhere. There is a certain expectation that I will deliver on that performance. So to me, it's standards. That's kind of what I guess professional means to me. And that is a consistent standard. But how about you, Ian? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks. There's a lot of things in there that I align with too, as well, from what you said. Like being professional as well. There's some really great comments in the chat, but I'm kind of just seeing it on the side.
Same.
So thank you guys. We'll address that in just a moment, and hopefully some of the answers we can have kind of unconsciously channeling this and answering this hopefully at the same time. So, great question about what does it mean to be professional for me. I see that there's a certain level of standard that's required. What I think of as professional and when I grew up was professionals had some kind of certification. They've got some kind of body that has actually said, you have this degree or a diploma or a certificate to be able to state you've reached a certain standard, you studied certain things, you've had experience in certain areas to be able to perform this particular skill set, whatever it could be. This could be in any industry. The number one thing about that, because it's not the only thing I think that's required of a profession, but I do think it's important. When it comes to role-playing gaming, there is no certification out there. There's no standard body in a university that's giving out degrees for people for being, you're an A-grade games master or whatever that would be.
You're
qualified.
And qualified. You've met a certain level of understanding and executionable skill. I think demonstrated to someone who is a much higher authority.
Absolutely. And I think there's an issue straight away with that. It's very difficult to then call ourselves professional if that's what people are expecting, because so then I thought that's not the only way that people get validated or are honored for the work that they've done. I have very big huge respect for some amazing people in the world who've never had a degree, who've never had certification. They just went out and did it. And it's because of how they did it that people respect them, and because of the other qualities that we've talked about, having experience in, say, for Games Master, you have experience in running it over a certain amount of times, or at least a number of times, over many different kinds of groups, over maybe different ages of groups, that you understand the rules. You've got a very good understanding of what's expected of a rule set or multiple rule sets, which is good for different role-playing games. You've got an understanding a bit of the history of role-playing games, because it has shifted over the last 30, 40, it's almost 50 years next year for Dungeons and Dragons. So
50.
It's like, and there's been a lot of change in that time for what it's expected to be, whether it be online or, computer games versus tabletop, or how we play, what the expectations of safety rules and session zeros and things like this becoming prevalent. So that understanding, and I love that you said ethics, stands as a practice of the way that we engage people.
Standards of practice. Yeah. That was what I was going for. Yes.
Yeah. What are the standards of practice that we hold true? Like for me, I might just dive into a little bit of this because it's very keen to see what people think as well. And I want to get back eventually to what Jared was saying, because I love what you said, Jared, about what's a professional game versus a personal game. This is hopefully answering some of the chat questions.
The sliding scale of compensation from store credit to, being paid hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, completely. I think
actually really made a really good point, which is what about if you're creating a stream for entertainment and you're gaining revenue from that? And I immediately kind of said, well, not just as a games master, but then surely the entire cast of said show should be compensated for their time in that case. Yeah, which is just should be assumed. So there's all kinds of way that one can be compensated from when you volunteer at a convention and like Collecticon that we may have mentioned once or twice. We are sponsored, so we have official sponsorship from Hasbro Wizards of the Coast. And
at Collecticon.
At Collecticon, not this stream. I'm able to compensate the Dungeon Masters for their time and effort through merchandise and through product, because we have created an environment of excellence. We vet our DMs. We do expect a certain level of behavior and being able to personally conduct yourself in a certain manner, and those people get to stay on, and we get to compensate them for their time. And then even my fun game that I run, I ask for a tiny cover charge of store credit, which I immediately spend on more RPG merchandise and hobbies. And that's the reason why where our next system that we're going to run is the Avatar Airbender role-playing system. And we can I can immediately invest in that hobby because it's going and it's supporting my local brick and mortar game store. So,
but I think that comes down to what we're talking about, and sort of making a definition is that just because you are compensated in some way doesn't, I think, to my mind, that doesn't define a professional DM. To me, a professional DM is somebody who can charge for their services. And if they're charging for their services in real cash monies, then they should hold themselves to a professional standard. And I think it was someone, Hoju in the chat, was saying, it's professional when the ATO starts taking notice. If you're overseas, the ATO is the Australian Taxation Office. And I think that's 100% true. If you're paying tax, it is a profession because you are charging real money. You should hold yourself to a standard. And I can't remember who made the comment, but there's lots of professions out there that do a really bad job. And that doesn't make it right. And maybe I'm pie in the sky, maybe being an idealist here. But I think if you are calling yourself a professional, you should hold yourself to a professional standard, which is all these things we've been talking about.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. And it's interesting because the three of us here, part of that idea of being considered a professional for me is that not only this was mentioned before, consistency, being able to do it again and again, even when you're not feeling it, you can get up and you can do it again because you're being paid. And so you should be able to have that level of expectation. Standards of rates or standards of compensation of some kind, if there is that kind of level to it. But we were talking about is a business. So if I'm going to be professional, I have to set up myself as a business of some kind. Yeah. In days before, there was like writing down, getting your business name and stuff through the Australian business
register.
The company register. Yep. Before all this, like in medieval times, you had a shop front. Basically, you had a name, you had to register with a guild or whatever it is, or anything like this. It's just the standards that you do to be able to provide a service or a product. And it's like, I feel like that's exactly what I have to do. Having a business name, having tax associated with it to make sure that people are getting paid fairly for what they're doing if I'm contracting people. I happen to run my business as a sole trader. I currently don't have any others I'm working with, but that is actually the direction I'm heading towards, and almost came to that actually last year. And I'd like to be able to provide that and opportunities for people to build this profession professionally by having a certain standard and etc. So it's things like that that's important to me. I
Yeah.
want to be seen as a reputable business, so I want to act like other businesses and other professions.
Yeah.
It's in
I
your
think
best
that's
interest.
And I think that's interesting. So that's sort of the model that you have, is that at the moment you're a sole trader. You sort of go out and you run it as a business. Jared, I think you've had a similar but a different experience of, because I think you said earlier for a while you made a living from being a dungeon master.
Well, yeah. So during lockdown, where pretty much every kitchen related business was closed, I've been a barista and a chef for a very long time. So those were my main go-to things. So pretty much anywhere that like opened for a little bit before new restrictions came in, you know, we were a big hotspot where I live in Sydney. So yeah, I went through so many different jobs, and I was very, very fortunate to have met someone who has a website, who has put in a lot of this work, created the shop front, done all the SEO, is searchable on Google. And I was very grateful to have been put in touch with this individual, and they're Melbourne based. So when he had Sydney based clients, I was his go-to contact. So I have driven it all the way out to Emu Plains. I've driven out to all sorts of places, Newtown and all of these places all over Sydney on my motorcycle, I might add.
Yes.
With all of my DM kit. And this is everything
it's
from...
a DM Uber.
Yeah,
Uber Eats delivery.
DM on demand. So this is everything from running kids' birthday parties to corporate functions for libraries, for rehabilitation centers. So yeah, like you name it, I had a bunch of clients, but also there were people online. So I had clients who were from Canberra, who were all professionals, and they were all a collective group of friends who really wanted a top tier experience. Some of them very experienced, others not quite so much, but everyone really came together, and we crafted an amazing version of Eberron together. So I've also got international clients. My one consistent client that I still have now, and again, I always refer to them as clients or customers, because I need to differentiate that in my mind, because they have become friends. It is a social thing. It's a social contractual experience that we all engage in, and all of our other episodes talk about how to do that the right way. But when you have a client, you show up, you bring a certain level of entertainment, because that's what you are. You aren't to be entertaining 100% of the time. Your role isn't to provide absolutely everything. It's a back and forth, you know, the whole dynamic of a role-playing game. But you will become friends with these people, hopefully, as per any new role-playing group. And then it's just about consistency. And are you going to be able to maintain that over a long period of time? So to come back to, yes, it was my primary source of income for a good while. I had 32 individual players across all the games that I was running. I had maybe 7 different games that I was running at any given, 7 different campaigns. I had run 12 nights of D&D in a row. So burnout much? But that's it. As I pushed myself to a limit, and I pushed myself to a limit, and I found out what my limit was. And then when I did start my new current full-time job, I immediately I trimmed off one game, and then I trimmed off another, and then another one just fell to the side. And then now I run one game professionally, one game for fun, and everything else in between. And then this project takes up a bit of time. So
I think it's really interesting, because one of the questions that came earlier in the chat, I think it was Agar, again, I'm also butchering your name, was how do you draw the line between having D&D as a hobby and having it as something that you do as a profession? And I think that point where you said that you always call them clients, I think that's a key thing. And it's the same for me. When I am being a professional DM, I'm more of a gig player. So I have, usually it's people reaching out to me and asking me to come run games for events that they've been asked to do. So I don't go out and seek the businesses, or offer it to people. And that's a workload thing. That's me trying to manage my life and maintain a balance. Because right now I have another job that is quite demanding at times. But I think that it's, but again, I will refer to people who I am running games for, like literally the people who ask me to run games for a group as the client. And I think it is really important. And there was another point that I think came up. I think it was Splinterbone was coming up talking about providing a service. And I 100% agree. It's the way you look at it. And I think it's even the language that you use around it. That can differentiate between games for fun and games for games for as a profession is something you're going to invoice for. I think
Yeah.
Polished Cryptid, I wanted to touch on Polished Cryptid's point as well, talking about that you can expect all your GMs to have standards. 100%, I think you should expect standards, a standard of,
If you're paying for anything, mind you.
Well, not
if
even,
you're
I
paying
think,
for anything.
yeah. But I think Polished Points was about, I've got that echo again, Jared. I don't know what's happened. But I think Polished Point was about you should be able to have expectations of your GM 100%. But if I am being employed, contracted to provide a game, as opposed to my friends, I'm not going to say, hey, guys, I don't really feel up to it tonight. We need to move. Or it's like, hey, can we cut this short? I'm tired. Or if it goes off the rails and we don't get to finish an encounter, that's fine. But if I've been... It's the standard of being just a good person, I think is always there. I think that is a fair expectation and that your DM is not going to screw you over. But the level of standard, yeah.
You said the word service came up, and I think this is actually, we've talked a bit about this because of the perception of the term service and what professional service is in the world is not the same with everybody you talk to. What does service industry mean? I think service is probably the best term for it, because service is actually something that is a professional standard to it. Service is something you do. I don't provide a service when I'm playing with my friends at all. I'm doing it for fun. I have games that I run for fun, and I'm not doing this as a service to them. I'm doing this because we're enjoying our time together, and this is one way we enjoy our time together. And I love that because I don't have the pressure of having to perform. I think this is a good form, performing a service. I'm going to align it just briefly because you mentioned before some of my background. So hopefully this can help provide of how one way I look at it. So I have a very strong, my career is based in performing arts. And so I've worked as a director most of my career, but I've also worked as an actor. I've worked as a writer. I've worked as stage manager, and I've also worked as producer, administration, front of house management, that kind of thing. And there is a perception among many people who understand the industry of the level of work that goes into it and the level of craft that goes into it to provide this service and an expectation of service. And I know not everyone enjoys theatre, for example, or arts or whatever. I was like, because they think, well, some shows are just not great. So that's fair enough. I know that there are people who love to do arts and come from and just want to be part of it. And there's community arts and there's community groups who do this, and they do that for fun. And that's great. And that's also because it's helping them develop their craft, which is also needed. So that then people who have refined this and provide it as a service for people to enjoy their time, everybody out there who is stuck in the pandemic and had nothing to do and were feeling isolated, we're watching Netflix, we're dying to get some music into their lives or entertainment of some kind from professionals. A set a standard of people who do this for a living so that people can enjoy their life. Because I think that's just as important as being able to have air to breathe, having doctors to take care of you, of having lawyers to make sure that you have justice in your lives, and educators who are there to help teach you to how to work in the world. Everything else, entertainment, joy, connection through story is exactly the service that we're trying to provide. And it's something that I know I hold myself to a particular level when I'm going out there to work on with, say, a library or an organisation who takes care of kids' mental health. They want to have specific kind of standards and ways to be able to engage them to provide a certain service so that they are more connected, so that they learn how to be more social. They learn how to be more confident. They learn how to be problem solvers. And these are all particular things that we adapt to as a service provider, if you want to call it that, to clients. I think client was the best term. I thought customer didn't, it kind of didn't work for me as well, but client worked for me because there's a certain level of trust with a client, I think, as well, that comes in, and I really like that. So I hope that answers it. I know that it feels a bit on a pedestal a bit. But I'm so tired of the way arts is treated. It's just some people just don't take it seriously. It's like, well, anyone, just can get paid to get up on the screen. I said, do you know how much hard work goes into that to do it again and again and again every night? Yeah, it's a bit of a rant over. Sorry. Thank you.
No, but it's totally legitimate. I mean, I think and it ties into the thing that artists should be paid and performers should be paid. And just because you do something for love doesn't mean that you should only do it for love, if that makes sense.
Can I really jump in on that really quickly?
Yeah.
Everybody should be doing a job that they love.
Yeah.
I know people who are engineers, who are accountants, who are lawyers, and absolutely love it. Just because they're not doing arts or riding horseback or whatever it is, or role playing. Yeah. Everything, if you're not doing something you love, why are you doing it? Because there are jobs out there for everything in the world. It's like finding ways to connect people to those jobs is the hardest part.
Yeah. I would put a caveat around that. And I think that is that you should always be doing your job for a reason. That is important to you, because not everybody is going to be able to do something that they love, but you should be doing it for a reason. And if that reason is I value the fact that I have flexibility in this job, or I value the fact that I can pay my mortgage and a house is an important thing to me, that's fine. But yeah, I agree 100% with the sentiment is that there has to be something that you love about doing that job. We are going in a different direction.
Are we? Because I keep thinking about the idea of profession. What does it mean to be profession?
Okay.
I just want to chip in real quick. I think it comes down to not just what you love to do, but what are you passionate about? Because what I do, I'm literally called a service advisor. So that's because we service cars. No, but my job
what else could you service, Jared?
Is to interject. I interject myself. I'm a necessary part of the process between a customer bringing their car in and the technicians, right? Technician bedside manner versus my years of hospitality and game mastering experience, where I get to riff with customers, I get to have a good time, and then the technicians can focus on what they do best. And the technicians have a job that I couldn't really get into, but I'm also very passionate about, service and providing that experience. So I'm passionate about customer service. I'm not passionate about cars in particular. I'm passionate about customer service. The moments I enjoy about my job is when I get to have these customers who aren't quite sure how their Bluetooth pairs up. So I get to go out to the car. We get to have a nice personal experience. I get to show them something. They get to be grateful, talk to me about their day. And that's what I do. I'm not there for all the paperwork. I'm not there to learn about drive belts and fan belts and articulating dog bone joints and all this other random crap. But that's it. At the end of the day, I have found the aspect of that. And then what I'm passionate about is role-playing games and TTRPGs, hence why we're here. So that is what brings light into my life. And I make sure that I have that light in my life. Whereas I don't mind doing the massive 10-hour days that I do, because I find the joy in my job, as well as have a passion that I have tried to make a living from. I haven't figured out how to do that sustainably yet. So that's just my I just wanted to immediately kind of share my experience with exactly that.
I agree. With both of you, actually.
Yeah. That actually ties into a comment in the chat earlier talking about streamers and talking about people that make money from streaming, and does that count as a profession? And I think that's really interesting. And we chatted a bit about that because it's starting to grey, I think. In a lot of people's minds, certainly before I started streaming and realized how much work it is even to put something together like this. Not that I am saying that this is not good, but when I look at some of those streamers that are making huge amounts of money, or I look at those people on YouTube who are making, webisodes and things, that I would look at and call professional, there's a lot of work that goes into that. Having dabbled my toes, since we appear to be doing toe dabbling in filmmaking and that sort of thing, there is a lot of work to get things to that standard.
So much work.
So it's interesting. So even then kind of goes back to our earlier discussions that it's still that it's applying good business principles. And again, I'm always a little uncomfortable about saying that because the whole capitalist thing, but it's not a phobia. But good business principles isn't about good, doesn't mean making money. Good means good, as in positive, as in moral, as in back.
Basically, I think at the end of the day, someone is opting to try to part with their hard-earned money or resources or whatever it may be, and they need to in good faith give that up. And if you want to demonstrate a skill at it, like I would say nobody should, I mean, this is the thing, right? Is if I'm doing like a birthday party gig, that's a one shot. I need to provide an exact precise experience in the allocated time. Of course, I say things can run over. It's setting expectations, communicating the reality of the situation, because when I'm running for a kid's birthday, generally no one's done it before. The parents have no idea what's going on. So I have to be the authority and the knowledgeable experience to be like, hey, this is what I charge. This is why I charge it. Are you happy with that? And this is the reality of how long it takes, what we should do, when we should have breaks. And then people feel very comfortable, and they feel like a transfer of energy and a transfer of money is acceptable. And then they're making that decision in good faith. So when I show up, it's go time. I'm there, I'm on time, I'm early if anything, and I'm fully prepared to run over, because I don't want to be like, oh, well, you're only paying me for 3 hours. I guess we're just not going to defeat the back. Like, you have to be reasonable. So I think that's what we keep trying to like, I'm trying to like bring in like actual examples of this, because it's all well and good that we say standards and quality and ethics and everything. That's what it actually looks like when I'm booked in. I show up. Of course, there's always exceptions. You can be sick and everything, but that individual is trying something on. Like when you book a party clown or a Spider-Man to come and do acrobatics at a birthday party, you're pretty sure what you're gonna get. But this is such an odd thing that people are trying out, people are learning about, and I love it. And I love to be that opportunity for people to do it. And then I hold myself to a certain standard, whether I'm compensated or not. I want to make sure that every single player gets inspired and shares the message. I've even given out, essentials kits and a collecticon and stuff to people who I know specifically are new players. I've chatted to them after the fact. They've given those kits away to other new players who have never played before, because they didn't need that box set. But that's exactly why I gave it to that person, because it just gets spread further and further when you demonstrate how it could and should be done.
And I think that's really important in any kind of performance or service type industry, is that there has to be a level of emotional work. And I think that's something else that is important when you're talking about being professional. So when I go out and if I run a game for a specific client for a specific purpose, it's similar to when I go out and I run a workshop for a specific client for a specific purpose, is that there is a clear, and I think we've talked about this, communication and clear expectations. It is a clear expectation of what I will be delivering, and I deliver that. And I think that is super important.
You got this as well. I think completely. Both of you said reason before, and Thea and Jared, you said passion, and I think there's something around both of those. The emotional investment in it. I think this is also when it comes to the question of why do we want to be seen as a professional games master? Why does it mean something to us? And why are we passionate about it? And I'm so glad you said, Jared, we should bring specifics. So I'll do a short thing about explanation about me. I do this because I love stories. I love connecting people. I love seeing the joy in people's faces when they create something. I love seeing people who don't usually get along getting along, because I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of people, the banter on social media of just extremism is exhausting. It's like, we can see what's possible around a room. And more than anything, I believe play and use of the imagination is changing the world. Every time we have stories and connect people through stories together, it changes in a positive way, because we share in the experience together. A shared experience, is like a bonding straight away for everybody.
100%.
I do it for that. And it's so important to every culture. It's like, and I want to help promote that. I want to help find ways. I have performing arts that has been my career in general, and that's my day job. I work as a front of house manager for an organisation in Sydney. That takes work. This takes work. This is a way of engaging people that, if you're doing performing arts, that, as much as I love it, tends to be very one way. And it means we're telling you this wonderful thing and you get to enjoy it. And, there's a little bit in live performance where there's a bit of a crossover. But in this, we get a group of people around a table
Mm.
And there may be a games master or some referee who's actually setting up the rules and the guidelines, but it is fed in so much by the
Mm.
people at the table. So they gain ownership over it. They gain ownership of the creativity. They get to grow in their skill set of articulation, of
Mm.
The
any
whole
social
agency of their
engagement,
character.
Mm.
agency of character, emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
creative intelligence of working left field, like doing things
Yeah.
you would never expect. No story
Mm.
ever survives contact with the players, and I love that because it's
Yeah.
like you can never plan what's going to happen,
Mm.
but when somebody changes the story so that
Mm.
it'll bring in this element that someone's brought in and
Yeah.
everyone agrees with it, it's magic. And
Mm.
it's just amazing. And
Yeah,
people
you are.
when you have wonderful
Yeah.
experiences from a game, that's why I do it. And I'll
Yeah, you
work
are.
my ass off to make it work.
Yeah. And I
Mm.
think, I mean, I think that's a beautiful way of saying why we're passionate about this game. But I think for me, talking about why professionalization is important in this field, and to me, it's because it's going to sound very dry compared to that wonderful, passionate speech. We're a self regulated industry. We
Yeah.
set, as the TTRPG community, set our own standards and we regulate and enforce those. Where if you look at any industry, once there is a continuum from absolute person that does it because they love it and that's all they want to do to high level professionals, all the standards come up. And to me, that's why I think this is important. And that's why, you know, we're doing this kind of thing, is I think people's expectations, people's standards, the ethics, the safety, it all gets elevated. You pull up that top end, everything starts to come up. And that's what I think professionalization does.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's a really important thing to acknowledge and to set those high standards. Yeah, it's not always going to work.
Yeah.
But I think it
the
is
word we
really
haven't-
important.
Yeah, the word we haven't actually used yet is value.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing is, you know, like being a chef as well. Like I did at one point in my chefing career desire to work in fine dining. The amount of work it goes into fine dining is utterly insane, and for most people, like affording to eat, like you don't eat fine dining regularly unless you're living, you know, extremely extravagantly. So like every kind of menu that I would create, every kind of dish that I would create, I obviously have to pick and choose my ingredients, what's the cost, how much effort is involved, and create enough value to justify the price that I put out on that menu at the end of the day. So, you know, that really wasn't my responsibility. It was far more creative than that. It was always, right, I need to make sure that I make something cool, creative, unique, tasty, exciting. And that was the value that I was providing. And then it was up to the restaurant manager to actually figure out the costing and all of that sort of stuff and source of all of the ingredients and things. So there's multiple people and facets, and there is the aspect of game mastery as well that is not just preparation for play. So how many Michelin stars is your DMing? Well,
yes.
I hate to say it, but I would love if there was some sort of star rating system
absolutely.
for game masters or something. That
level of
you just
respect
hit
and
in the special
and joy.
That's hit real home. Like to earn you know, hats and stuff. Like again, like if there was some kind of award that went out, but it's just not possible, right? Because I mean, I say that
it's not possible
places,
now.
well, that's the thing.
So
Places
far.
like Fortress, for example. Fortress, for those unfamiliar, there is a place that started in Melbourne. They've brought a gaming center to Sydney, and it's very esports, very, you know, there's like you can book out a booth, you can play games, you can play board games, you can.
We are not sponsored by them. This is not an endorsement. This is not an ad.
we're just mentioning that there is an opportunity out there to go to a really nice venue that someone's put in a lot of effort. And you can go and get some good food. You can go get a feed. You can hang out with your friends. It could be a nice social experience. And hey, you can go and play Dungeons and Dragons because they have dungeon masters who are compensated for their time there. So that's the thing, right? Is if somebody was going to create an entire venue dedicated to role playing, where you go in, you book out your DM, and you have a dedicated DM who you keep returning to, or things like that, or you try different things. It's happening. We're seeing examples of this, not just with a venue that has DMs, but also DMs who are taking venues and bringing a bunch of DMs together and making that venue once a night a week a special collaborative experience. And yeah, the venue unfortunately
Yeah.
also needs to be compensated because they could fill
Mm.
that with a bunch of patrons. Or
Yeah.
this could bring those patrons in, and not only is it this a wonderful social interactive experience, there's a cover charge, and you might get a meal, or you might get some hot chips at your table, or something cool. So, you know, having that consistent venue is value
and
in
I
and of
think
itself. So
yeah.
yeah.
And I think we've talked about Awakened Fables before that has a model that is going out that they have regular weekly nights of games, they have standards, all that sort of stuff. But I think also there's websites. Jared, you were talking about one. And I think it's relevant to mention that, the one where you could almost talk about your experiences with the DMs, kind of like rate your experience as a potential business model.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that the rating was specifically built into the website, but I believe they do have a feedback system now. So I'll just mention it because I think they really are doing good work. It's startplaying.games, and you go onto their website, you scroll down a little bit, and it actually immediately shows you different systems, different games, different modules, what they're running, how much they charge per person, when, where, how, everything. It's very, very good. They're doing a good job. And they want to hear if you're not having a good time. Dungeon masters and game masters can be banned from being on their website. If you don't have a good experience, they're not just saying, oh, well, we were just the go-between, which is how websites like platforms like Uber work, for example. Uber is not a rideshare or food delivery service company. They are a technology company, and you have to be your own business. You have to be your own business, and you are contracted, and you use their service to provide your service. We use role-playing games to provide our experiences and services. So the way that I approach things, the you know, my talents and my skills, the things that I work on as a game master, are not going to match other people's. And that's why there's so many there's diversity in business, there's diversity in any industry. So go and find what works for you. Do your research, and don't just dive in and start throwing money at people because you're so desperate to play. I think we also need to define players playing for social experiences versus entertainment.
And I think that's a really important point, and something that we did want to talk about, and I am conscious of time, is that as a player, if you are engaging a professional DM, I think you have a right to know what you're getting into.
Absolutely.
You have the right to expect. Now, I'm not saying that I paid you, so you should give me exactly the game I want, and I should always beat the BBEG. That is not what I'm saying. But if you're handing over money for a game, you should know. You have a right to know what it is you're handing it over.
Yeah, role-playing games are not pay to win, and they never will be.
Yeah, thank God. No, because nobody wins, because it's not everybody works together. But anyway. But I think if one of the things that we did want to talk about and kind of make the point is that, if you engage a professional DM, then you can expect a standard. And that, I think that's something that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah.
That's a good point. No, if you want to finish this, because
I'm done.
Because I'm going to take... Where it can go, I'm so glad, Jared, you brought up about chefs, because, guys, watch Chef's Table. If you want to understand what it's like to see what work goes into putting on like high quality food, but from people who are passionate about it, because every one of those episodes are from people who are passionate about their craft. I would agree. I think there is a certain level, but funnily enough, they've monetized it as well. They've found a way to make it. I want to have a living. I want, because I not only love doing this, I am passionate about it. I want to bring it to people. I want to work with other people who do this. The only reason we don't have a Michelin star system yet is because we haven't been around for hundreds of years. Because everyone needs to eat,
and all over the country, and we don't have a tire company that's deciding that we need to sell tires, and maybe that's what that is. If anyone was curious, yes,
this is it is the same Michelin. I see. I've learned something.
And that's the thing. It's like we have that level of standard has evolved over a long time. So it's like we're 50 years old next year, not even 50 years old, and that means we've had barely a couple of generations going through. And I swear the last 10, 15 years, like you could look at touchstones for how the development of role-playing gaming has shifted from literally friends meeting in basements and meeting at game stores and conventions, and that was it. There was nothing else. Trying to get it on online, satanic panic. Like, come on, this is the stuff that we had to deal with in the early days. It was nuts until we got Lord of the Rings come through, and then people started to think, oh, fantasy is actually cool. Then Game of Thrones comes around and actually goes, oh, fantasy doesn't have to be just G-rated or PG-rated. And then you have online games, you have Critical Role, you have popular media showing people playing D&D in different ways and engaging, playing different kinds of role-playing games. We're barely scratching the surface of that as well. And starting to see that this is actually, now you've got big screen adaptations of Dungeons and Dragons, which has come out. We're getting known. It's going to take time. Yeah.
I just wanted to pick up on something that came out of that, an idea that just occurred to me, because sometimes people talk about the negatives of having these really popular shows, is that people's expectations that every DM is going to be a Matt Mercer or a Brennan Lee Mulligan or a Bria Iyengar.
Exactly. They're not.
But that's the thing. They are professionals. And just like I didn't think that I could walk onto stage and be an amazing prima ballerina because I've done a couple of classes. If we accept that professionalism and professional DMs are a thing and have a level of skill, it takes away some of that expectation. Of course, I'm not going to have to do all of the voices as a baby DM or as a new DM because I'm not a professional yet. It's not something that I do. It's okay. So I think almost by moving towards professionalization, it takes the pressure off. Because people go, oh, yeah, that's someone who does that for a living. Of course, your DM who does it every couple of weeks isn't going to be a voice actor, and that's okay.
Absolutely. And I think that's exactly right. Different levels of professional expectation, because it's like it's going to be a whole, same as food, again, bringing it across to food, different restaurants. There are different restaurants for different wants. There are different GMs for different wants, but there's a certain baseline of expectation when it comes to, you go to somebody you don't know, a group of people who come in and say, we want that. And you have a certain level of service that they're going to expect. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about for me anyway. That's what it means.
I think so. It's clear expectations.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it does go straight into the food metaphor, which is a lot of people can cook. Some people don't want to. Some people find it very difficult. Some people find it challenging, just like game masters. A lot of people will never take up the mantle. They don't feel confident or capable, and it's just not for them. 100% not a problem. But then there's people who really love cooking, and they will go to effort of cooking beautiful, nutritious, and tasty. Well, not always nutritious and tasty, but we can always try. But they will create this nourishing thing for themselves, for their family, for their friends, and then they can get quite into it. They can really, they can have dinner parties, and they can invite a bunch of their friends and family over, and it might be a potluck, and people can bring their own things. And now we're talking like a traditional tabletop role-playing game. But as soon as you go to another venue, you're going to a restaurant, you are expecting a certain caliber. You want your table setting to be clean. You want your cutlery to be placed in the right position. You expect the food to come out piping hot, fresh, and tasty. And when you go back 2 months, 3 years later, or maybe not 3 years later, depending on the restaurant, but you want consistency. These days. You want a repeatable experience. So that's the other thing is are you as a games master running a one shot? Are you just having a bunch of friends round for a dinner party and you just happen to do a roast really, really well, or a certain pie or something like that? But if you're going to a restaurant, you might have tried the fish dish or something, and you were like, man, no one's ever cooked me swordfish like that. I know that there's one fish and chip shop near me. That's the only place I go and eat swordfish, because they just do it so well. Yeah. So that's what we don't really have in this industry yet, is obviously the ability to just be there as a shop front. We're finding our way through, and like people are saying, the internet is just we're no longer little isolated communities. It's not just
I love that comment in the chat.
We have the opportunity, like this platform, to be able to talk about this and really really hopefully mold and shape people's intentions around this, demystify what it is. I'm absolutely for the people who are so passionate, who say, I would never charge to run a game for people. I respect that so much, because that means that you value your time, and that is what you are giving. You are giving, and that is generous and so kind. But there's also the aspect of compensation and are you actually providing something that's worth it? But also the situation that you're in. Are you there to run? Are you there to be entertained? Sorry, to be entertaining.
It's not so. I mean, doing something for passion and for fun and loving it doesn't devalue somebody who sets a standard and delivers a standard of service. And the same thing, a person who delivers a set standard of service doesn't devalue the person who does it for fun. I mean, I love this food metaphor. You know, you can be the person that cooks the beautiful meals for whenever your family come over, or you can be the professional chef. There's no, it's not like there's not enough water. It's like sunshine. Everybody, it doesn't matter how many people are standing under the sun in what direction, you're still all getting sunshine, and there's enough to go around.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Having that breadth of diversity. I like that. IGEAR, thank you for the pronunciation before, said about that the government term, perception is the mother of reality. Completely agree. It's like, there's a shift that's happened in role-playing, understanding what role-playing games are in just the last 10 years. That is more, I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, because I've been playing for more than 30 years. And it's like, this is phenomenal. People actually are like, not, oh, you're a nerd like this because you play this. They're more like, oh, I've always wanted to play that. I hear that so often these days.
Yeah.
I've never thought I'd hear that. Yeah.
You hear it from so many people in so many different areas.
You do.
Loz, I think I might.
Yes, Loz.
Maybe we will suggest a food analogy limit. I think that's probably fair. Because I was about to start talking about McDonald's versus
undefined. Well, I'm not quite sure. One thing to shift it from a food analogy then was something about one last thing I think about the level of professionalism, if you want to call about it. People that I look up to in any industry, that even if I don't know much about it, but there is a name associated with it. I'm just going to say about music, for instance, is Prince. Massive fan. Loved his stuff since a young age. And the stuff that he did, because he was so prolific, there's all of that. But it's also, he helped try to raise the level of awareness of music across the world in a number of ways. And there are people who are in a profession of some kind who are doing their work and helping trying to raise the level of understanding about what it is, and also ways to engage with it in the community, as well as helping teach people how to do that. Such a part of professionalism, I think, as well. It leaves places for people to know that they can talk to this person, or this group of people, or whatever it is, this organization, and you know that I trust that I want to learn from them. I know that I'm going to get a certain level of understanding, and I could learn how to do this. And it's modeling in a certain sense. Yeah. The models that we have to look towards, people like Matt Mercer, for example, is so huge. He's a model for so many people, which is why that certain standard of service is an expectation for a lot of people, because we don't have many other models to draw from. And that's just going to grow with time, with perception and with more people standing up and saying, here's my version of this.
And here's where I sit on this continuum.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could talk about this forever. There's so many things to sort of pick apart and to get into, but I feel that we're probably starting to run out of time. Were there any final points that you wonderful people wanted to make before we start to wrap up and look forward to the next week? And I also do apologize. We have had some sound issues, so I know there's been some issues. So thank you, everybody, for your forbearance.
I'll start first. And I guess for the last point, there's so much more we could talk about it. And I wish we did have the time now, but I think that's why we've got future episodes to be able to talk. I love the idea of diversity. I love the idea of what you said about the sun analogy, that I had the same thing in arts when it came to theatre, and I started to find out very quickly in the theatre world that there were some people who were very isolated and want to just keep things like this. And then there were other companies who were really keen to connect and just go, we have different ways of doing things, but I love your way. I'm happy to send people your way to see yours. Can you send people to ours? And we're like, yeah, let's do that. Because then it just raises the awareness of it. It helps provide everyone else to understand what the hell this is, what we do, and how fun and how life-changing it can be. So I can't wait to talk more about it.
Absolutely. Jared, any final or closing thoughts?
Yeah, massively. I think, people in the chat, I just want to thank you guys. Like, this is exactly what my hope was for this episode.
Amazing.
I really want to share this out there. I don't want this to be the be all and end all. I want to hear absolutely everyone's perspectives, because I've heard so many things through the internet about different experiences and people's opinions on whether a game master should be compensated for their time in one capacity or another. And then there's also about how many people and the diversity of people who are running and playing, the accessibility of it all, the opportunity with the internet, shrinking the world, bringing people closer together. And that's the thing is, my client right now, 2 of the players in France, they play at 8 a.m. where we play at 5 p.m. And it's freaking fantastic, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wonderful. And I, early in 5th edition days when Roll20 was coming out, I played in the middle of a Wednesday day at 12 o'clock with people from America. And that was a wonderful experience. And like, because of that opportunity, it wasn't a paid game. I'm not trying to talk about that anymore, but that's the thing is, like, the game is evolving, it's changing, and just my whole desire with this project, the TSP project, and having these important conversations is that we can clearly define and pioneer a better future for absolutely everyone. Not just in the quality and the caliber and the excellence of games, whether they're paid or not.
Excellent.
Agreed.
There's not much more I can add to just such beautiful sentiments. I think that we've... the uwu is my thing this evening.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
But I just want to... we will wrap up, I think, this conversation, but please do, let's continue it. Continue it in the Discord. Continue it in chats. We have a Facebook page, so please feel free to follow that as well. We have a Discord. Please join our Discord. We will wrap this up, but we will be back next week.
Yeah.
Now, we come to that time of the evening where the 3 of us look at each other
I know
and think
exactly what
back
we're
and
doing
go,
next week. We're talking
what
to
are we
a
doing
friend
next
of mine.
week?
No, we've got it organized this week. That said, stuff happens. No, next week we are talking to a dear friend of mine, longtime player, excellent dungeon master, and brilliant player. And we are going to be talking to Ben about the perspective that a dungeon master has when they're playing, but also what a player thinks about that makes their DMing better. And I just love talking to this gentleman about his perspective on game mastering. He's a very passionate, very creative person. And we and he and I also have conversations about the approach to the hobby, not just this is cool content, check out this homebrew thing, I did this cool thing in my game. But we also do that a lot. We also love to share how we mess with our players, and it's wonderful. So Ben is going to be on, and that's just going to be a fun conversation, because just chatting to him about ideas for what we wanted to talk about, I was like, I didn't know you could think about it that way. Wonderful. Apparently our Discord invite's expired, so I'm going to change that right now. I'm going to manually send a personal invite to all of you.
Amazing. We're getting into your DMs.
Because we've got this for next week with Ben, and I'm very much looking forward to that discussion too. Probably a good thing to note for everyone out there. This will be the end of season 2 next week. We're going to have a break after that. So it's like, catch us while we're doing break. It's going to be a bit of an extended break too. So we're going to have a lot of July off, so that we can actually just have some rest, recover, relook at things, retool for what looks like pretty much heading into late July, early August for our next ones. So and it's been.
We will keep you updated. Yes. Amazing. Thank you to these wonderful people here with me. Thank you everybody in the chat, to the beautiful people there. But thank you everybody for joining us. We will see you again. Tell your friends, all that sort of stuff. Be safe, be beautiful.
Run some games, be excellent.
Yeah. Yes. Be creative.
We love you.
Connect.
We'll see you
Thank
next
you,
time.
everyone.
Bye.
Mwah.
Mwah.